Okay. Welcome to this talk called Jakarta EE 10 Feature by Feature. It's a sort of a mix of a previous talk I've done, but some of it is brand new. So you're the first ones to experience this. So that's going to be kind of exciting when it comes to the demos. My name is Ivar Grimstad. I'm the Jakarta EE developer advocate at Eclipse Foundation. And you can see my contact information there if you want to contact me on Twitter or LinkedIn, ask questions. My GitHub is there. You can find some code demos and stuff on Jakarta EE. So please feel free to reach out to me on these channels, and I'll answer as best as I can. We also have a brand new Jakarta EE community on Twitter, so do join there. I'm a Java champion. I'm in the Java community process executive committee representing the Eclipse Foundation there. And I'm also running a Java user group in Malmö in Sweden. So what's Jakarta EE all about then? Well, we're talking about specifications. And with specifications, we're talking about these three artifacts that kind of build up a specification. And that is a document, an API, and a TCK. It can be several APIs and it can be no APIs. It could be a document or it could just be JavaDoc. But this is kind of the conceptual artifacts that a specification is. Then we need to have compatible implementations that implements these specifications. And that's the TCK it's for, to verify these compatible implementations. And TCK is Test Compatibility Kit. So it's a set of tests that verifies the specification. And when we have at least one open source implementation, then we can say that this is a final specification, because then it's proven to work. So this is kind of what we're talking about when I talk about specifications. And Jakarta EE 10 is the latest version of Jakarta EE Common, and it's coming in Q2. And as you all know, we are in Q2 now, and we are very close. The planning, the stuff going on now is doing the final. All the specifications has done their release review. They have the deadline of May 1st, and we're gathering everything together and build up the final specification of Jakarta EE and test suites and compatible implementations, and we're targeting June 23. Around there is what we're hoping for. So end of June is Jakarta EE 10. And what is Jakarta EE 10? And this is the specifications I was talking about. And there are lots of them in Jakarta EE 10. And you can see all these blue ones are the ones that are updated since Jakarta EE 9. And the ones with the 0 in the version number, they are major updates. So they have potentially backwards incompatible changes, or they are so much changes that the team wants to kind of amplify that, hey, we're doing something new here. The gray ones are not updated for this release. They're still there and can be used. And the orange one down in the corner, CDI Lite, is a brand new specification. It's actually a part of CDI, but it's considered to be a brand new specification. If we take away these on the left side here and just focus on the more specifications that are targeting more web application and traditional applications, we can see that this is what we call the web profile. And the web profile has been with us since Java EE 6. So it's nothing new. And you can see the web profile also have updates all over the place. And if we kind of gray out the ones that are focusing on the traditional web applications with the UI and persistence and etc., and just look at these specifications, and these are specifications that are perfectly fitted for creating microservices or headless clients or whatever you want to call it. And this is and this set of specifications forms something we call the core profile. And the core profile is brand new in 10. So we're introducing a new profile called the Jakarta EE Core Profile. Also in 10, we're raising the Java SE requirements level. So we're compiling all APIs to Java SE 11. That means you have to go to Java SE 11 in order to use Jakarta EE 10. And we're compiling everything. We're saying that we're not allowing any API features above 11 in the APIs, so we can compile it to binary level of 11. But we're ensuring that the tests are running with 11 and 17. And that means you can use 17 features in your application if your server supports it. And if you want to use Java SE 17, you can, but you can also stay on 11. But if you're on 8 or earlier, upgrade to 11 in order to use Jakarta EE 10. And the key here is that we're saying 11 and above. If somebody tries to certify their product on 8, they probably will fail. So let's look at some of the specifications and start with security. And Jakarta EE Security 3.0 is evolving the APIs that were created in Jakarta Security 1.0. Security 2.0 was just a namespace change for Jakarta EE 9, so that they didn't add anything. So with 3, we're adding features to the API. And you can find everything you want to know about security under Jakarta EE/specifications/security. And this is the kind of the URL pattern that all the specifications have. It's Jakarta EE/specifications/ the short name of the specification. And we're trying to do it as kind of obvious as possible. So this is where you navigate to find all the specifications. The thing they're adding in Jakarta EE Security is support for OpenID Connect. And to be able to do that, they also do updates to the more lower level APIs that are specifications on their own, like Jakarta Authorization and Jakarta Authentication. But these are specifications that you as a developer doesn't really face. That kind of underlying lower service provider interfaces that the implementers of the application servers are using in order to provide the functionality that Jakarta Security gives you. And the updates they've done to these are forming a foundation for future work to add more flexibility and features to Jakarta Security. And the big feature they're adding is OpenID Connect. Jakarta Persistence. Persistence 3.0. So this is a minor release. They're not breaking any changes. So you can do everything you did in 3.0, you can do in 3.1. And they're adding some features to this one. And one of the things they're adding is that you can use UID as a basic Java type in your classes. So in this example, the UID is used as primary key. And I'll demo this afterwards. See if we can get it to work. But it's not necessarily a very good idea to use UIDs as primary keys. But here you have support to do it if you want to. You can also use it in some of the fields in the database, but have it generated for you so you don't have to do this generation on your own. Jakarta RESTful Web Services. So 3.1 of Jakarta RESTful Web Services are updating their API. They wanted to do a 4.0 release, but they decided to go to keep the compatibility backwards. So they're also doing a minor update. And what they're adding here are support for Java SE bootstrapping. That means you don't need an application server. You can just have a main method and instantiate the application, feed it into SE Bootstrap and start it from command line. And I'll do this in a demo as well. They're also adding support for multi-part form data, so you can upload and download files through the APIs in a standard way. You could do this in REST-easy, for example, or Jersey before, but you would do it in the Jersey way or in REST-easy way. Now you can do it in a standard way, so it will work on all implementations. Let's look a little bit on the core profile. So the core profile is targeting smaller runtimes, and I'll demo the core profile as well afterwards. And the thing with core profile is that it's a subset of the web profile, which is also a subset of the platform. This is not necessarily going to be that way in the future, but currently we have this kind of subset way of doing this. And these are the APIs that are into this. We have looked at Jakarta RESTful Web Services. So we'll look at some of the others. But first, why are we doing this core profile? And we're doing it to allow for smaller runtimes to be Jakarta E10 compatible. And candidates here, they haven't promised that they will do it this year, maybe next year. Helidon Orcus could be core profile compatible. Micronaut is also a framework that is interesting, that also would fit very well with core profile. And the other thing, the reasoning for core profile is also that this gives a foundation for microprofile to build on. So today they have a set of specifications that they are not testing for. So when you run on a microprofile application, you're not actually sure if you can port it from one implementation to another, because they don't have any formal test of the underlying APIs. But with the introduction of Jakarta Core Profile, they get a TCK, a test suite, and can test for compatibility for their foundation. And as you see, these specifications are the same as microprofile requires for their, even though they're not testing for it today. So the JSON specifications are doing small things. Binding is doing a major updates, since they are doing a backwards incompatible change. They're removing a parameter from a method, and that's enough, since we're trying to enforce semantic versioning. It's a 3.0. Otherwise, it's very small features, and it's a set of features requested by the community. I won't go into details about these here today. There are smaller kind of things. If you're interested in them, you probably know them already. Otherwise, check out the specification documents on Jakarta EE/specification/JSON B or P, the one you're interested in. There are small changes that can be useful, but it's not that major things. Jakarta annotations are adding features requested by the community, so it's a minor update, but these features are kind of, the community here is CDI. So CDI Lite needed at priority everywhere. And also, just for the sake of it, they added at nullable and at not null, since that hasn't been supported yet. So these are they're doing updates to these annotations and adding some new ones. And these were requested by CDI. And that also means that interceptors had to update, since they are consuming annotations. So they are doing a minor update just to consume the interceptors APIs. Dependency injection is not updated. That's the old add inject. So we're not doing anything to that one now. It could be incorporated into CDI later, but still, right now it just lives as its own spec. The interesting thing here is CDI Lite. And CDI Lite is kind of the core of Core Profile, if you want to put it that way. And CDI Lite is allowing these applications to work in more restricted environments. And with restricted environment here, we're talking about that you want to do things at build time that Jakarta EE usually does at runtime or deployment time. And why would you want to do that? Yeah, it's kind of popular these days to compile to native. So by doing these changes in CDI and introducing the CDI Lite profile, we can have portable, or what we call build compatible extensions that can replace the existing portable extensions, so they can be resolved dynamically at build time. So you can use GraalVM and compile to native. So it's kind of, this is what CDI Lite is all about. And I'll do a demo of this as well. They're also changing the behavior of Beans XML. So CDI 4.0, even if you're not using any native or any build compatible extensions or Core Profile, you're having a break-in change there with Beans XML. If you're relying on it to mean all, it will now mean annotated. And that can cause problems for you, but you just have to either add an empty Beans XML or switch it to all or annotated or whatever you're using. So that is the break-in change in CDI. And that brings us to a demo. And for this demo, I'm going to do. I'm going to take this application and I'm going to use parts of it in some of the demos, but the complete application is storing a message in a database. It's using Jakarta persistence to retrieve that message. And then I'm using Jakarta Enterprise beans, or EJBs, to do some business logic around my message. And then I have a Dux greeting, a Jakarta REST service that are producing JSON by JSON binding out and saying it's kind of a hello world, but it's coming all the way from the database and using a tiered approach to this. And I'm also, just for the fun of it, sort of, and to be able to demo it, I'm adding a CDI extension. Not many of you are actually probably doing CDI extensions, but it can be a very powerful feature. And what I'm doing here is the powerful feature of saying hi there to the sysadmin that deploys the application in the log file. So it doesn't do any weird stuff, it just says that. And I'll take this application, and usually what I've done previously is to take it from Jakarta E8 and do the transformation over to 901, and then to do it over to 10. But I mean, Jakarta E8 is so old now. 10 is coming, it's 9 we're all at, so I'll skip this part of the demo. And what we're focusing on is I'll do some stuff in 9, and then I'll move over to 10. And this step going from 8 to 9, the step I'm skipping, I'll just go through a couple of slides and just show how you can do it. You could use a transformation. You can take your binary file, your WAR file or jar file, and transform the code by using these tools. It's called Eclipse Transformer, or there is another tool at Apache called the Apache Tomcat Migration Tool. And you can just run this on the binary, on the class file, and it will fix the bytecode. And you can run it on the Jakarta namespace, even though you program it with Jakarta E8 on the JavaX namespace. You can also use the IDE to fix this, and IntelliJ has excellent support to do this migration. And it says what it does. It replaces JavaX imports with Jakarta imports. So that's all what it does. You can do this with search and replace in the text editor as well. But this kind of does it in a controlled way, and skipping the ones that aren't changed, like JavaXL, JavaX Swing, if you have that in a Jakarta EE application, or the transaction. So these are not over to the Jakarta, they're still in the JDK, so you don't want to change them. So this kind of takes care and just change the stuff that you actually need. Or you can do it manually. And these are the steps, and you can find this on the Jakarta EE application on my GitHub. There is a tutorial there, so you can go through these steps and do it in your own application. And what you need to do is to update the POM, obviously, to the new Jakarta EE version. Then you need to do the fix imports, because you will get a lot of compilation errors. All the JavaX to Jakarta. Then there are some XML schema namespaces that are updated from the old jcp.org until jakarta.ee. And the versions of the namespaces. So there are kind of a little bit of fiddling there. And then you may have some properties, like some of the persistence properties prefixed with JavaX. These need to be changed to Jakarta. And maybe you have some bootstrapping files, like the CDI extensions, that are called JavaX. The file is called JavaX something. You need to change that to Jakarta something. So it's all the way a search and replace, more or less, from JavaX to Jakarta, but in a very controlled way. And then also you may have some dynamic content. Maybe you're building some properties in the database, concatenating strings to create some fully qualified class names, and using JavaX. These need to be Jakarta. So these are kind of the 6 steps you need to go through. And you may skip some of them if you don't have this stuff in your application, but these are the 6 steps that will completely transform you from Jakarta E8 to Jakarta E9. So we're skipping this one, and we're doing just the Jakarta E9 and upgrading to 10, which will be fairly simple. And then I'll show the Jakarta E10 core profile as well. And for E9.1 and 10, I'll use Glassfish 6.2 and 7. And for a core profile, I'm using Wildfly. So let's go and look at this application in the code. So it's called Complete Duke. You can see here I'm actually running this on Java 8, and I'm running Jakarta EE 9 because 9 runs on 8. It's first with 10 that I have to go above 11. The application itself is fairly simple. The configuration of my REST application is very simple. It's completely empty, and you can see here I'm on the Jakarta namespace. So I'm on 9. I've done that transformation. The greeting saying on the at a low path had response to a HTTP GET producing application JSON, and I'm just calling the Duke service find greeting method. The Duke service is a stateless enterprise bean. You can see that by the stateless annotation. It's injecting a repository and doing the business logic around it. And the business logic in this case is to find the first one. If I don't find the first one, if there are none, then I'll just hardcode one. So it's a very simple business logic. But that's it. Find all and then find the first. And the find all method is a Jakarta persistence. It's injecting the entity manager here and doing a criteria query, which is basically select all from Duke's greeting. And the Duke's greeting defines my entity and the database, and you can see it's a greeting table. It has an ID, a message, and an email. So it's a fairly simple application. Just reads this stuff up. I also mentioned the extension, and I have a annotation here called @Dukes, and I'm using this @Dukes annotation here in the resource class, and I'm just having a message hi there. And the Dukes extension class does the look for the Dukes annotation, and then prints its message and takes the message from the Dukes annotation. So it's kind of, it doesn't do anything, it just prints to the log. And the bootstrapping file, the one I was talking about with the you may have, is this Jakarta Enterprise inject SPI extension, and it has a fully qualified class path to my Dukes extension. So this is a portable extension. It will work on any implementation of Jakarta EE. So let's start this one up in Glassfish, and I have Glassfish 6 running here, and I'll go and redeploy this application, and you can see here in the log that it says hi there, and this is the Dukes extension logging. So you see this extension works in this in this application. And let's also look at how the actual call there is. So I'll go to the complete Duke and say hello, and it says how to Jakarta EE 9 with Java 17, and well, I didn't know I was doing 17 here. Weren't we on 8? So yeah, let's do that. And before we do that, I'll just go to the let's see if I can find the database here and look at so we can see that how it looked in the database. So I'm just doing a select all from greeting. And you can see my message here is the one that is displayed on the web. And you can see here, I'm Dukes.Java. It's an email. I have a message, and everything is exposed through the REST API. And this is usually not a good idea. You want to have some kind of data object or something in between, so you don't expose your database tables through your REST API. So in order to do that, let's upgrade this application to Java 17 and introduce a data object here. So first of all, I'll just upgrade it, very simply, I'll just use the compiler release 17. Since I'm above 11 or 9, I can use the compiler release and not have the source and target, which is a good thing. So I'll update this one. I'm now on 17. And rather than returning my database entity here, I'll create a record and use that one. I know record came in 16, but it's kind of 17 was the LTS that got it. So let's introduce a record here. Duke's greeting record. Won't add it. Let's have a string message and a local date. So this is all I have to do. When I have this record, everything else is generated for me. So in the resource, rather than returning my database here, I'll return the Duke's greeting record. And then I have to fix my business logic method to also return the record. And here, I'm retrieving it from the database and finding the first one, and then I'll map it to a record. So I'm taking the greeting from the database, and I'm creating a new Duke's greeting record. I'll take the message, and I'll take local date now. And also have to, if I don't find anything, I'll have to do the hard-coded version as well, and I'll use local date now there as well. So now I've done everything. I've changed to returning a record, and I'll change my business logic to retrieve an entity and map it to a record and then return it. So let's run this one in the Jakarta E9. Do you think it will work just by upgrading to 17 like this and go? It didn't. What happened? Well, there are something that since Java E9 isn't kind of verified on 17 or anything, there are some things you need to be aware of. And one of them is that a Duke's greeting record, when it's created, when the attribute is called date and message, the methods are called date and message as well. And JSON binding, the previous version was, it's looking for a Java bean. It's using that Java bean pattern, and that means that it's expecting a get message and a get date. So of course I can do some sort of conversion here, but the simple way, the hacker way, is to just call it the attribute get message and get date. So when I do this, my method here is now called get date and get message, like the first one there. So when that is done and I redeploy, then it works, and you can see the attributes are called message and date because it's using the getter. So that is kind of a hack that you may have to do in order to use 17 on a API that doesn't support it. With me so far? Want to look at some core profile? So we've done this one. Let's just get rid of the database things and look at the Duke's extension and do this, convert that one to a build compatible extension rather than using a portable extension. So I'll just close this complete Duke for now. Or before I do that, let's upgrade this one to 10. So I'm going to 10, and in order to use 10 right now, you need to use a staging profile, which you can find on my GitHub because it's not released yet. So it's in our staging repository. But I'm updating this to Jakarta E10. Just refresh it. I'll just stop the Jakarta no, the Glassfish. Let's see if I can find Glassfish 7. I'll stop this one. I'll get rid of this one. So the complete Duke is now running on Glassfish 7. I've upgraded, and here you can see my attributes are called getDate and getMessage. So on Jakarta EE 10, the only thing I did in the code was to change the dependency, and I changed the runtime. So Glassfish 7 actually does this thing correctly. So if you've introduced 17 and running that on Jakarta EE 9 on Glassfish, then you need to change this back. Luckily, it's fairly simple, and if I do that, it should return the correct thing again. So it's kind of, since it's not verified with 17, this is what happens. But as you see, Glassfish is verified with 17, and then it works. Yeah, so the build compatible extension. CoreDuke is here on Jakarta EE Core. As you see, it is using version 10 here. I also have a dependency here for the enterprise language model for CDI. This is because the version of Core Profile that was staged has a bug. It forgot this dependency. So I have to add it here just for the demo to work. Tomorrow, when it's restaged with the correct version, I can remove this dependency. But for now, I just have to add it here. Otherwise, it's just a product dependency for Core Profile. And this is a new thing. My application here currently looks exactly like the other one. I have this method here. My business logic here is just to hard code howdy CoreDuke. And let me see the record. Here I'm using getGreeting, and let's see if that works. I'm not sure if it works for Wi-Fi. But the important thing here is the annotation that logged this message in the console. Here, it is the old extension, the portable extension. So if I want to change this one to a build compatible extension, what I need to do is to implement the build compatible extension interface. So that's one change I have to do. Then there are some changes to these methods. Rather than the process annotated type that is automatically called, I now have a method, and it has different kind of phases, and one of the phases are the enhancement phase. It's discovery, enhancement, and etc. It's 5 different phases that it goes through. But in the enhancement phase, I can look for the with annotations. So I change this one, and you can see I get some compilation errors here, and that is because the interface has changed a little bit on since I'm now using a class config, which is from the new CDI language model, and it's not using the old extensions API. So here I also have to kind of figure out what I have to use, and for me here it is the, rather than having the get annotated time name, I can just get it from the class info get name, and from the annotation message I can use the annotation of Duke's class message. So it's kind of depending on what you're doing in your extension, you have to kind of fit it with the new extensions API. So now I'm using a build compatible extension here. What I also need to do is this bootstrapping file, and here it's called JavaX Enterprise Inject SPI extension. So what I have to do is to use the build compatible extension. So I'll rename this one to, let's come on there, to build compatible extension, and then it will be discovered at compile time. And let's drop this one into Wildfly and see if it works. This is kind of exciting. It doesn't always. So let's see here. I'll just pull this up. So I have Wildfly 27.1 alpha running, or not running. I'm starting it now, and I'll just there. So it's an alpha 1. It will probably be a beta, and then sooner or later it will be a proper one. And here you can see it says find Duke's annotation, and it says this hi there message. So this is a build compatible extension. It's resolved at build time, and then when I start the server, it just prints it. So if you're not doing extensions, it's kind of a weird thing. But if you're doing extensions, then this is very cool. Of course, I can also look at this one in the localhost. I think this one was on 83. Sorry, 83 core dick. Hello. Yeah. So it's a and here you can see it's also the get reading can be changed here. I don't need this for Jakarta EE10. So that is kind of a good thing if you like to have your code clean and nice. So this one runs in Wildfly. Okay, we have 10 minutes more. I think I have time for one more demo. So I ran this one with the build compatible extension. It's kind of a complex thing, and but that's kind of the key of Core Profile. So if you're doing extensions, this is the way of doing it. What we're going to look at now is the Jakarta RESTful Services Bootstrap API. And here I'm just using Jakarta REST, nothing else, and JSON binding. And I'm saying how did Jakarta, I can say something else, but let's look at the Bootstrap API. So I'm not going to run any servers or anything. I'm using the Booty Duke, which here you can see in my POM file, it's a little bit more complex than a Jakarta EE application. First of all, it's a jar. It's not a war. I'm using Java 17. And I'm using the assembly plugin to create assemble a jar for me. You can do this other ways, but I just use the assembly plugin here. And then I'm having the Jakarta REST 3-to-1 provided dependency. And in order to run this bootstrap, I actually have to choose an implementation. In this case, I'm using REST-DC. You could also use Jersey or something else, but then you have to replace these just REST-DC dependencies with the Jersey equivalents. So here I'm using the REST-DC core, the undertow, so it's a web server, and then I'm using JSON binding to get the binding. The code here is, I have this, I also have this grading record here. I'm not sure if these getters and setters have to be fixed. Let's look at that. And you can see here my application, my resource here is a getter. It produces application JSON, and it says how they Jakarta Core Profile. The different thing here is the Jakarta REST application. If you remember from my previous example, it just had this line. I didn't have anything in it. But here I've added a main method. And this main method instantiates this class and then gives it to the SE Bootstrap and just sets some ports and some path here and just let it run until I press Control-C. So I'm passing this app, which is an instantiation of the REST application, into SE Bootstrap, and it just runs. So there are no REST-DC things here. It's all standard. So I just have to switch the dependencies if I want to run on Jersey. Previously, I would have to switch something here that would have REST-DC bootstrapping, but now it's all standard. So the code doesn't need to change. So let's not that one. So I'm here on the Jakarta Duke. So let's go to Booty Duke, and I'll Maven clean package, and I'm using the dash staging in order to get the core profile things. So it creates a jar for me, and I can run it from command line, Java just jar target Booty Duke with the balances, and it's up and running, and we can look at it. Sorry. 81 Booty Duke, hello, and it says howdy Jakarta RESTful web services. And here you can see the Java SE 17 things doesn't really work with the records, aren't really supported by the JSON implementation in REST-easy, which is weird because it works in Wildfly but not in REST-easy, and REST-easy is a part of Wildfly, but yeah, who knows. So I don't think we have time to demo persistence, but what I wanted to do was to change the primary key for my my greeting from a long to a UID. It's very simple to do. We can look at that after the talk. If you just approach me, we can do the demo. So what comes after 10? Well, the work with Jakarta 11 starts now, or has started already. With 10, this is me speculating. I don't know if you want to raise the API source level to 17, but if some APIs wants to support records fully, or something else that came between 11 and 17, why not allow it? So we have to have this discussion and see whether we should force everyone up on 17 or allow 11. This is not decided. This is just me speculating. But what I would like to see is that we make it possible at least to follow every LTS version out there, and the next one will be 21. So when Jakarta 11 comes out, Java SE 21 would probably be there, and because that's already next year, I think, or something around there, and then we should be able to run on 21. Jakarta config is still going on. It was originally planned for core profile for EE10, and hopefully they can get a release out fairly soon, so we can release maybe a 10.1 of core profile with config. They're working on it. It's sort of they're taking everything that was good with microprofile config and doing it the Jakarta way in Jakarta config. And it will be a more or less a drop-in replacement for microprofile config, or at least have a migration path. And it is expected that microprofile will consume Jakarta config when it's out there. And they also add some stuff like configurations in tree structures and other goodies that microprofile config do. And also remove some of the bloated things from microprofile config, so it will be a cleaner API fitted for Jakarta EE. Jakarta MVC is something we've been working on for a very long time. It's an action-based MVC pattern. So we really want to see this in the web profile. So we have to start lobbying it and get people to use it. So if you're interested in MVC, contact me and we'll set up a demo or something. Jakarta NoSQL, you have Octavia here. This is standardized integration with NoSQL databases. This is something, if you can get out a release, you can be a candidate for 11. So if you're interested in NoSQL, talk to Octavio and get that project going, so we can get it into Jakarta 11. There's also a new project going on called Jakarta RPC, which is standardizing gRPC for Jakarta EE. This is pretty cool stuff. They haven't really started working on it. It's all established and ready to go. So if you are an expert, or if you know something about gRPC or have an opinion about it, join this mailing list and start talking about it. Now is the time to influence. There is a project proposal for Jakarta Commons. It will just be kind of common stuff. We will keep this small. We don't even know if it will be a specification or if it just will be a project, but it will be where we can have some common annotations, APIs, utilities that everyone is using. We don't want to create something that is a super dependencies that everybody that it kind of get in the way of things. So we need to be careful what we put there and how we do it. We're also discussing, and there is a proposal also by Otavia here for Jakarta data. So kind of have a layer there above NoSQL and persistence to standardize around the repository patterns and other things, I think. But these are discussions going whether this should be a specification or not, and it probably will be. So if you're interested in data, think Spring data or Delta Spike data. Join this discussion and voice your opinion that this is a good thing, and then we will get Jakarta data into 11 as well. To sum up, 9 is the one we have here. 9 lowered the entry barriers, made it easy to join. It's a platform for innovation. You can see we have lots of new stuff coming on. It's an easy migration from previous version. It's the namespace that is the thing. So if you haven't migrated from JavaX to Jakarta, you're probably going to have to do it in some way or the other in the future. Spring is coming this fall with Jakarta namespace. Jakarta E10, a lot of changes. All the blue ones are updated. So if anyone you're interested in particular in one of them, read the spec, check it out, check the demos, figure out how to use it and how to get there. Jakarta E10 Core Profile is a new thing we introduced now with CDI Lite as the corner piece. Java 17 works fine with Jakarta EE. As you see, depending on the implementation and the profile, you may have to do some, and the version you have to make a little care, especially if you're using the Java 17 features directly interacting with the API. If you're using text blocks or switch expressions or something within the code, that's fine. It doesn't affect the API. It's only when you kind of communicate with the API, such as throwing records to JSON binding, that you have to think about it. So we're on 11, but we run on 17. If you want to know more, jakarta.de is the place to go. You can get your blog syndicated on Jakarta blogs. You can read my blog. It's also on Jakarta blogs. It's also on my blog here. I write weekly about Jakarta EE. And my demo code is on GitHub. It's called Jakarta EE Duke. You can find everything there, and please enjoy. So with that, I thank you very much for listening, and hope you enjoyed the conference. And don't be shy. Come and talk to me and ask questions about Jakarta EE. Thank you very much.